Welcome, wisdom seekers. Picture this, a life where anger doesn't control you, where setbacks don't shake you, a life where every frustration and every challenge fuels your growth, your strength, and your peace of mind. Today, we're diving into 10 transformative habits inspired by the ancient Stoics, habits designed to help you master your emotions, conquer anger, and find the calm confidence that lets you face anything life throws your way. Imagine waking up each day with a mind that's resilient and centered, a mind that chooses patience over frustration and purpose over reaction. These are not just habits, they are powerful practices that can truly change your life, helping you become the person you know you're meant to be. As we explore each habit, think of it as a step closer to mastering yourself and to building a life rooted in wisdom and strength. So if you're ready to make that transformation, take a second to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Let's build this community of strength and resilience together. And we want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and share your thoughts. Tell us which habit resonates most, or let us know about your journey with anger. This is your chance to rise above anger, to build your inner fortress. Let's dive in and begin the journey. Habit 1. Cultivate awareness of anger's origin. Let's begin our journey with perhaps the most powerful weapon against anger: self-awareness. Developing awareness is like turning on a light in a dark room. It illuminates the hidden recesses of our mind, where anger often festers, unnoticed. Anger doesn't usually erupt out of thin air. It's a response, often an unconscious one, to something deeper. Imagine anger as a fire, and to understand it fully, we must identify its fuel. What fuels anger in you? Is it insecurity, pride, fear, or perhaps an old wound that is yet to heal? The philosopher Seneca, in his treatise on anger, explained that anger is like an acid that can do more harm to the vessel in which it is stored than to anything on which it is poured. To understand anger's origin is to understand what kind of acid you're harboring within yourself. Is it resentment from a past experience? Is it a defense mechanism born out of fear? By developing awareness of these roots, you begin to take back control. Rather than being at the mercy of anger, you can start to dismantle it from within. This habit requires a high level of self-honesty. When you feel anger rising, take a step back and observe it. Consider this moment of anger as if you were an outside observer, watching yourself with a neutral mind. Try to break down the layers. Why does this particular situation anger me? What am I protecting or defending? Often, anger stems from a sense of feeling threatened, whether it's our pride, our sense of justice, or even our sense of belonging. For example, imagine someone cuts you off in traffic. Your immediate reaction might be anger or irritation. But if you pause and analyze it, you might realize it's not the specific act that made you angry, it's the feeling of being disrespected or disregarded. Perhaps this taps into a deeper belief about fairness or your need for respect. By identifying this, you gain insight into yourself. Rather than allowing the anger to take over, you use the moment to deepen your understanding. In practical terms, cultivating awareness can be achieved through regular reflection and mindfulness exercises. Begin with a daily practice of journaling about moments when you felt anger. Write down each detail, the situation, your thoughts, and your physical response. Once you have the details down, ask yourself, what did this experience reveal about my expectations, fears, or beliefs? This practice, when done consistently, transforms your mind into a mirror, reflecting back to you hidden patterns and assumptions that may have driven your anger for years. A helpful technique within this habit is zooming out. When you feel anger building, visualize yourself rising above the scene. Imagine seeing the bigger picture, your life as a whole, the transient nature of the situation, the larger journey you're on. This mental exercise helps diffuse immediate tension by putting things into perspective. You begin to realize that, in the grand scheme, many sources of anger are inconsequential. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Think of yourself as dead. You have lived your life. Now take what's left and live it properly." In other words, life is fleeting, and anger drains precious energy from the time we have. Ultimately, awareness is about choice. Each time you recognize the roots of anger within yourself, you create a tiny space in which you can choose how to respond. You are no longer a slave to the emotion, you become its master. This habit is a journey. But over time, you will find yourself calmer, more collected, and far less affected by the world around you. Habit 2. Practice the pause. Once we develop awareness, we can build on it with another powerful tool, the pause. The Stoics believe that between stimulus and response lies a sacred moment, a moment in which we can decide how to act. Practicing the pause is about learning to use that moment wisely. Seneca wrote, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." In other words, the best thing you can do in the heat of anger is nothing. Just stop, breathe, and allow yourself a moment to consider your response. Why is this pause so important? When we're angry, our brain's emotional center, the amygdala, takes over. We enter what psychologists call fight-or-flight mode, where rational thinking is suppressed and our instinct is to react. Practicing the pause gives your brain time to shift out of this reactive state, allowing your rational mind, the prefrontal cortex, to regain control. This simple pause can mean the difference between a calm response and a regrettable outburst. Imagine someone insults you. The immediate urge might be to retaliate, to defend your honor. But by practicing the pause, you gain a few precious seconds to reflect. In those seconds, you ask yourself, is this really worth my peace? How can I respond in a way that aligns with my principles? This habit is about training your mind to delay gratification, to overcome the impulse for immediate revenge in favor of a response that serves your long-term well-being. To cultivate this habit, try incorporating deliberate pauses into your daily life. Practice in small, non-urgent situations, like waiting in line or responding to a minor inconvenience. Each time you pause, you strengthen your ability to hold back in more challenging situations. Over time, you'll notice that it becomes second nature. In a heated moment, instead of reacting, you'll instinctively pause, and within that pause lies your power. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, exemplified this approach. In the chaos of governing a vast empire, he trained himself to remain calm and unreactive. He advised, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." In the pause, you reclaim your strength, reminding yourself that you control your actions, no one else. The beauty of the pause is that it allows you to access your higher self. By taking even a few seconds, you can ask yourself, how would my wisest self respond? Over time, this habit can change the very fabric of your life, leading you to a calmer, more controlled and peaceful existence. The more you practice, the more resilient you become against anger's immediate pull. Habit 3. Train your mind to see the bigger picture. One of the reasons anger takes hold is because we often get lost in the minutiae of daily life, reacting to each inconvenience as if it were the end of the world. This habit is about training your mind to zoom out, to see the broader view, and to put each situation in context. Marcus Aurelius advised, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." Seeing the bigger picture helps us transcend our immediate anger and see things from a higher perspective. Think of a time when someone wronged you. Maybe they disrespected you or didn't keep their word. In the moment, it's easy to feel anger and frustration. But what if you take a step back and consider the larger view? Perhaps this person is going through their own struggles, or maybe their actions reflect their limitations rather than an intent to harm. By shifting your perspective, you detach yourself from the intensity of the moment. The Stoics had a practice known as premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils. This technique involved mentally rehearsing the possibility of adversity and even practicing imagining yourself in challenging situations. The goal was not to dwell on negative outcomes, but to prepare oneself to handle them with grace. By training the mind to expect challenges, the Stoics believed we could approach life with greater calmness. When you see things from this broader view, anger loses its urgency. A practical way to develop this habit is to cultivate gratitude. Each time anger arises, pause and reflect on what you have to be grateful for. Remind yourself of the blessings and achievements in your life. This practice shifts your focus from what's wrong to what's right, helping you see that one moment of anger doesn't define your life. Another aspect of this habit is accepting the impermanence of all things. The Stoics believed in viewing life as fleeting and ever-changing, helping them detach from temporary frustrations. Marcus Aurelius frequently reminded himself that time is like a river made up of the events which happen and a violent stream, For as soon as a thing has been seen, it is carried away, and another comes in its place. By seeing each moment as transient, you learn to let go of minor irritations. You realize that anger is temporary, and clinging to it only prolongs your suffering. Training your mind to see the bigger picture helps you prioritize what truly matters. Instead of being swept away by each provocation, you learn to stay grounded, keeping your focus on the life you want to build, rather than the obstacles that appear along the way. Habit 4. Embrace impermanence and let go of control. One of the deepest sources of anger is our desire for control. When things don't go our way, when people don't act as we wish, or when life takes an unexpected turn, our immediate response is often anger. It's a reaction rooted in a sense of helplessness, in the realization that despite our best efforts, we don't have absolute control. This habit, embracing impermanence and letting go of control, teaches us to accept the natural flow of life, to release our grip, and to find peace in surrender. The Stoics deeply understood this. They lived by the principle that while we can control our own actions and reactions, we cannot control external events. Epictetus, a former slave turned philosopher, emphasized this wisdom repeatedly. "Some things are up to us and some things are not up to us," he famously said. This fundamental teaching is a reminder that while we can shape our attitudes, we must accept that much of life is beyond our influence. People's actions, the opinions of others, the course of nature, and even outcomes are not within our grasp. The paradox here is that by letting go of control, you gain something even more valuable: peace. When we cling too tightly to our expectations and desires, we invite frustration, disappointment, and anger. But by embracing impermanence and recognizing that everything, good and bad, is temporary, we cultivate resilience. We learn to flow with the river of life, rather than struggling against its currents. Think of a time when something you valued changed unexpectedly. Perhaps you lost an opportunity, faced a rejection, or dealt with a sudden challenge. In these moments, anger can easily consume us. But if we learn to view life through the lens of impermanence, we recognize that change is an inherent part of existence. Marcus Aurelius taught that the universe is transformation, life is opinion. The idea here is simple, yet profound. Life constantly changes, and it is our perception that defines how we experience it. A practical exercise in embracing impermanence is to adopt the habit of detachment. This doesn't mean becoming indifferent or emotionally numb. Rather, it means acknowledging that you cannot possess anything permanently, not people, not objects, not even your circumstances. Try to think of each experience, relationship, and success as a temporary gift. This mindset fosters gratitude and reduces the fear of loss. You begin to see each moment as a precious part of the journey, not something to cling to. Imagine a situation where someone makes a promise and then breaks it. The instinctive response is often anger. But if you practice this habit of letting go, you'll find yourself asking, was this promise truly mine to control? Can I accept that people may not always fulfill their word? By releasing the expectation, you free yourself from the anger that would have arisen. You accept that the other person's actions are part of their journey, not something you can control. Another practical way to strengthen this habit is by practicing the Stoic exercise of negative visualization, known as premeditation malorum. This involves mentally preparing yourself for things going wrong. Consider how you would react if someone disappointed you, if plans were disrupted, or if you lost something you valued. The goal here is not to invite misfortune, but to lessen its impact by preparing the mind. When we repeatedly visualize scenarios of loss and change, we become less reactive to them. Instead of anger, we respond with acceptance and resilience. The modern world constantly reinforces the illusion of control. We're encouraged to plan, to set goals, and to strive for security in every aspect of life. But the Stoics remind us that life is a dance with the unknown. The only certainty is change. Embracing this uncertainty frees us. Each time we release our grip on control, we grow stronger and less susceptible to anger. Over time, this habit transforms your mindset. You become adaptable, able to face the ebb and flow of life with grace, calm, and inner strength. Habit 5. Cultivate empathy and compassion. Anger often stems from a feeling of being wronged or misunderstood. But what if, instead of reacting with anger, we chose to respond with empathy? What if, instead of condemning others, we tried to understand them? Cultivating empathy and compassion is one of the most transformative habits for overcoming anger because it shifts our focus from blame to understanding, from isolation to connection. The Stoic philosophers believed that all human beings are part of a larger whole, interconnected by our shared nature and experience. Marcus Aurelius, in Meditations, wrote, "Whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself the following question: what fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I am about to criticize?" This practice helps us recognize that we, too, are imperfect. We all make mistakes, act out of fear, or struggle with our own limitations. Imagine someone has spoken harshly to you. Instead of responding with anger, consider what might be driving their behavior. Are they struggling with stress, pain, or fear? Are they, perhaps, reflecting their own insecurities? By seeing others' actions as symptoms of their own inner struggles, we create space for compassion rather than resentment. To develop this habit, practice asking yourself, what might this person be going through that I don't understand? Or, what would make someone act this way? This habit does not excuse harmful behavior, but instead reframes our response to it. We replace judgment with curiosity and anger with understanding. Another exercise is to practice imagining yourself in others' shoes. Picture yourself experiencing what they might be going through, feeling what they might be feeling. Consider someone who annoys or frustrates you. Imagine their life, their challenges, and the weight of their burdens. This habit nurtures empathy and makes us less reactive to perceived slights or annoyances. The Stoic philosopher Seneca advised, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." This doesn't mean we ignore boundaries or allow others to mistreat us. Rather, it means that we choose not to carry anger or resentment. Instead, we offer kindness, not necessarily to others, but to ourselves, by not allowing their actions to disturb our peace. Cultivating empathy and compassion rewires your mind. Over time, you'll find that anger gives way to a more profound sense of understanding and calm. The more we understand others, the less power their actions hold over us, and the more liberated we become from anger's grip. Habit 6. Practice self-mastery and emotional regulation. At the heart of Stoicism is the pursuit of self-mastery, the discipline to govern one's emotions, actions, and reactions. Practicing self-mastery and emotional regulation is a core habit in overcoming anger because it places you in the driver's seat of your life, rather than being pulled around by fleeting emotions. Epictetus famously said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Self-mastery means recognizing that while emotions arise naturally, we can choose whether or not to act on them. Anger is an emotion like any other. It's neither inherently good nor bad. It's our response to anger that can be constructive or destructive. Practicing self-mastery allows us to observe our anger without being consumed by it. Developing this habit requires consistent practice. The first step is learning to recognize the physical signs of anger: a racing heart, clenched fists, tense muscles. When you notice these signs, remind yourself that you have the power to choose how to respond. Take a few deep breaths. By breathing slowly and deeply, you activate your body's relaxation response, signaling to your mind that it's okay to calm down. Another aspect of self-mastery is learning to redirect your thoughts. When anger arises, our minds often spiral into negative or aggressive thoughts. Practice interrupting this pattern by asking yourself constructive questions. What am I trying to achieve here? Will this anger help me, or will it hinder me? These questions serve as anchors, grounding you in your higher intentions rather than letting anger dictate your actions. Marcus Aurelius offers a powerful reminder of self-mastery in his writings. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. In other words, we have a choice. When anger tempts us to retaliate, we can choose instead to rise above. We can decide that we will not allow others' actions to compromise our values. Self-mastery means acting with integrity, regardless of how others behave. Developing self-mastery and emotional regulation is like training a muscle. The more you practice, the stronger your control becomes. In time, you'll find that anger no longer has the same hold over you. You become calm in the face of provocation, grounded in your principles, and free from the turbulence that once governed your reactions. Understood. Let's delve even deeper into each habit, weaving in more Stoic wisdom, practical exercises, extended philosophical reflections, and actionable insights that create a rich narrative. Here's a comprehensive continuation for the remaining habits. Habit 7. Practice the art of patience. Patience is one of the greatest tools in overcoming anger. It allows us to develop the endurance and tolerance necessary to meet life's inevitable difficulties with composure. Without patience, we react impulsively to the smallest of provocations. With patience, we gain control over our emotions and create a buffer between stimulus and response. This habit is about training your mind to tolerate discomfort, delay gratification, and see life's challenges as opportunities for growth. Patience was revered in Stoic philosophy as a powerful virtue. Marcus Aurelius, in his work Meditations, reminded himself frequently of the importance of patience, writing, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." He saw that impatience and distress arise from our perspective, our desire for life to move at our chosen pace, for things to work out as we plan. Cultivating patience, therefore, is about releasing this desire and accepting that life unfolds on its own terms. Consider a typical scenario where impatience leads to anger, waiting in a long line or dealing with traffic. When we're stuck in these situations, it's easy to feel as if the world is against us, as if these minor delays are personal attacks. Yet, in truth, the universe is indifferent to our schedules and plans. Recognizing this frees us from the idea that life is doing something to us. Rather, it simply is. By practicing patience in these moments, you turn an otherwise frustrating situation into a training ground for inner peace. To cultivate patience, start by reframing moments of delay as chances to practice endurance. Instead of focusing on how much time you're losing, ask yourself, how can I use this time constructively? What can I learn here? Small, everyday inconveniences then become exercises in mental strength. Each moment you choose patience, you're training yourself to withstand discomfort and frustration. Eventually, when larger challenges arise, you'll find yourself equipped to handle them with greater calm. Seneca, in his writings, stressed the power of patience as a means of overcoming adversity. He believed that impatience, anger, and frustration are all forms of resistance to the flow of life. Patience, on the other hand, is a way of aligning yourself with the natural order. How much better to endure whatever happens, he wrote, for it is impossible to escape judgment or expectation. This is the way to the greatest peace. Patience, in other words, is a tool for creating lasting inner peace. A practical method for developing patience is through deep breathing exercises. When you feel impatience creeping in, pause and take a slow, deep breath. Exhale slowly, feeling the tension leave your body. By focusing on your breath, you can quiet the mind, calming the restlessness that leads to anger. Over time, these moments of mindful breathing build resilience, giving you control over impatience before it transforms into full-blown anger. Another technique is to practice what the Stoics called amor fati, or love of fate. This concept teaches us to embrace each situation, good or bad, as part of our journey. Rather than viewing delays or disruptions as obstacles, view them as part of the path. Embracing this perspective helps us see challenges not as inconveniences, but as opportunities to grow and strengthen our character. The more you practice patience, the more you transform into a person who is calm, centered, and grounded, even when life throws unexpected twists your way. Habit 8. Reframe expectations and reduce entitlement. Anger often arises when our expectations are unmet, or when reality fails to align with what we believe we deserve. This habit encourages us to examine our expectations closely and to reduce the sense of entitlement that feeds frustration. By adjusting our expectations, we develop a more realistic outlook on life, one that is less prone to disappointment and, consequently, less prone to anger. The Stoic philosophers often advised setting minimal expectations. Epictetus taught, "Don't hope that events will turn out the way you want. Welcome events in whichever way they happen. This is the path to peace." By minimizing expectations, we cultivate a mindset that welcomes any outcome, good or bad. When we stop expecting life to fulfill our every desire, we free ourselves from anger's grasp. We become open to whatever life presents, embracing it as part of our journey. Take, for example, a situation where someone fails to meet your expectations. Maybe a friend cancels plans, or a coworker doesn't fulfill a commitment. If we carry a sense of entitlement, we're likely to feel slighted and frustrated. But if we reframe our expectations, viewing others' actions as reflections of their own limitations rather than as personal affronts, we liberate ourselves from anger. We recognize that people have their own lives, struggles, and priorities, and their actions are not always within our control. This doesn't mean you should eliminate all expectations. Rather, adjust them to be more aligned with reality. Expect people to be human, to have flaws, and to occasionally disappoint you. Expect life to be unpredictable, filled with both joys and setbacks. By adopting these realistic expectations, you build a more stable foundation for contentment. A practical approach to this habit is to practice gratitude for what you do receive, rather than focusing on what you don't. Each time someone meets or exceeds your expectations, take a moment to feel gratitude. Expressing appreciation reinforces the idea that nothing is owed to us, that everything in life is a gift, not a guarantee. Over time, this mindset shift reduces the power of entitlement, making us more resilient to disappointment and less prone to anger. Marcus Aurelius frequently reminded himself of the transient nature of life, noting that our time here is short and uncertain. He urged himself to appreciate each day, to let go of rigid expectations, and to be grateful for what is, rather than yearning for what isn't. Adopting this perspective frees you from the cycle of anger that arises when reality doesn't match your expectations. Instead, you live with a sense of openness and flexibility, able to adapt to whatever comes your way. Habit 9. Develop inner fortitude through daily challenges. Building resilience against anger requires inner strength, a mental toughness that can withstand life's ups and downs without succumbing to rage or frustration. Developing inner fortitude is about training your mind to handle adversity, to be unshaken by minor inconveniences, and to endure discomfort with grace. This habit transforms you into someone who remains calm in the face of provocation, someone who meets challenges with courage rather than irritation. One of the ways the Stoics practiced building inner fortitude was through voluntary discomfort. Seneca, for example, would occasionally sleep on the floor or wear simple rough clothing to remind himself of his resilience. This practice, known as premeditatio malorum, or anticipation of hardships, was a way of building mental strength. By subjecting themselves to controlled discomfort, the Stoics fortified their minds, making them less reactive to life's inevitable hardships. To apply this habit, consider incorporating small challenges into your daily routine. Start by doing something uncomfortable each day. It could be as simple as taking a cold shower, skipping a meal, or spending a few minutes in silence without distractions. These small acts of voluntary discomfort remind you of your capacity to endure. When we actively choose discomfort, we cultivate a mindset of resilience, preparing ourselves to handle bigger challenges without being overwhelmed. Developing inner fortitude also involves training yourself to tolerate negative emotions without immediately reacting. When you feel anger rising, allow yourself to sit with it. Don't suppress it, but don't act on it either. Simply observe the feeling, recognize its presence, and remind yourself that emotions are temporary. This practice strengthens your emotional resilience, helping you tolerate anger without letting it dictate your actions. Epictetus advised, "Make it your study, then, to confront every harsh impression with the words, 'You are but an impression, and not at all the thing you appear to be.'" By facing anger and discomfort head-on, you build mental clarity and learn to see emotions as fleeting impressions rather than unchangeable realities. Over time, this habit strengthens your mind, making you less vulnerable to anger and frustration. You gain a level of emotional endurance that keeps you grounded, calm, and centered, even in challenging situations. Habit 10. Reflect on mortality and the bigger picture. The final habit, and perhaps the most profound, is the practice of memento mori, a reminder of mortality. Reflecting on our own mortality is a core Stoic practice, one that teaches us to value our time, to let go of trivial concerns, and to focus on what truly matters. By contemplating the finite nature of life, we reduce our susceptibility to anger, we realize that life is too short to waste on petty grievances and fleeting frustrations. Marcus Aurelius frequently reflected on death, not as a morbid exercise, but as a means of perspective. He wrote, "Think of yourself as dead. You have lived your life. Now, take what's left and live it properly." This practice reminds us that time is limited, that each moment is precious, and that anger consumes valuable energy we could be using to live more fully. Imagine being at the end of your life, looking back on today. Would the things that angered you seem important in hindsight? Would the minor grievances and annoyances hold the same weight? Reflecting on mortality helps us see anger in its proper context, as a fleeting emotion that, in the grand scheme, is often inconsequential. This broader perspective reduces the intensity of our anger, helping us focus on what truly matters. A practical way to integrate this habit is to spend a few moments each day in quiet reflection, considering the impermanence of life. Ask yourself, if today were my last day, would I spend it angry? This question brings clarity, helping you prioritize peace, gratitude, and compassion over frustration. It reminds you that each day is a gift, an opportunity to live with purpose and integrity. Seneca wrote, "Let us prepare our minds as if we'd come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing. Let us balance life's account every day." This reflection on mortality is not a morbid practice, but a liberating one. It teaches us to let go of the minor irritations, to forgive others more readily, and to pursue a life of wisdom, kindness, and peace. By practicing memento mori, we learn to see each day as a precious opportunity to grow, to connect, and to live free from anger's grasp. This habit, when practiced consistently, transforms our perspective on life and frees us from the need to control, to dominate, or to hold on to anger. We become grounded in the present, at peace with ourselves and the world around us. Each of these habits, when practiced with commitment, reshapes your relationship with anger, turning it from a source of suffering into a teacher of resilience, patience, and inner peace. By embracing these Stoic principles, you forge a path to a calmer, more centered life, where anger no longer has the power to disrupt your happiness or control your destiny. Let these habits guide you to a state of mind where peace prevails and where the journey to wisdom is your constant companion.